Why does this keep happening? How does this keep happening? So in the latest installment of butchering source material, it looks like the live action series of The Last Airbender is making some changes.
My name is Ong.
Yeah, I'm getting flashbacks to that horrible live action movie too. They couldn't even pronounce his name right. Like, what is Ong? What is that? You could watch the show, see that it's pronounced Aang. Ugh, that movie was so bad. So the live action Avatar The Last Airbender Netflix series is now out. And while I haven't watched it yet, everyone I see is pretty much saying that it's what I expected, which is not good. And I'm constantly seeing clips being posted online that are significantly at odds with the source material. And yeah, it's probably not quite as bad as the movie. That was just exceptionally bad.
It's time for you to stop doing this!
The Avatar would have to be an airbender. Are you an airbender, boy?
Leave him alone!
But there's still been so many changes made to it that are just completely unnecessary and are really frustrating, and I'm not interested in watching the show now. Like, if I'm gonna watch Avatar The Last Airbender, I'm gonna go watch the cartoon. Because that is the only Avatar The Last Airbender as far as I'm concerned. These live action remakes are just yuck. But this shouldn't be surprising. It's a trend we all expect with adaptations and reboots. Not only that, but the original series creators left the project a while back. That's pretty much a for sure sign that there's something wrong with the series. Which I think something needs to be made very, very clear. And that is that you, talking to writers here, you are not above the source material. No matter how much better of a writer you actually think you are than the person who created the source material, if you're doing some sort of adaptation or reboot, you're doing it for a reason. And that reason is the source material. Even if you are legitimately a better writer than the source material, people are there for the source material. So in that aspect, you aren't going to be above the source material. You aren't going to be better than the source material when the whole point of the product is the source material. But yet time and time again, we keep seeing this happen. And it almost always ends in disaster. Like I said, this is a trend that's been going on for a while now. We've seen constant reboots and adaptations just completely spit on the source material. A big example is The Witcher Netflix series. The source material is great. They literally did not need to change a thing. They had absolutely no reason to change a thing. And the lead actor, Henry Cavill, he's an expensive actor, but because of his love for the source material, he was basically like, okay, I'll work at a discount on one condition. And that was that the series needed to stay true to the source material. And they literally lost him because they couldn't do that. It's like, how? I wouldn't even say it has to stay true to the source material because he tolerated a lot of changes. The first season of The Witcher wasn't too bad, which probably explains why Henry Cavill stuck for the second one. It stayed mostly true to the source material. There was two big differences, I guess you would call it, in the first season. One of them I would actually say was a good difference, and one of them was just horrible. So I'm actually going to talk about the good difference first. So the good change that was made was basically adding additional lore to the world without removing anything, without taking anything away, basically not even really changing anything, just adding something there, you know, that was never explicitly mentioned in the novels, but could have existed. It fits within the universe. But this is what I would basically call a good change. And so what it was in the Aretusa school, the people who didn't succeed got turned into these eels that powered the school in some way. And it was this kind of like dark twist that came out of nowhere that I think added to the story in a lot of way without actually changing things. And it's also something that has really dark implications, but if it ever does conflict with other lore, it can kind of be undone. The eels could be turned back into human if necessary. So it's one of those things that I think just works really well. But I want to point out aspects about it. So first, doesn't change any of the already established lore. It just adds an additional layer. Second, can be undone if necessary, right? I feel like that's another big part. Third, fits within the universe. Again, very big aspect of it. And four, actually served a purpose in the story. You know, if you change things just for the sake of changing things, you're annoying. That's bad writing. Stop. So basically, if your change doesn't fit all four of those elements, you're probably making a mistake. And so the example of a really, really bad change that happened in season 1 that made me actually quit watching the series was how they killed off Ike so quickly. Is it Ike? Ake? I don't care. So he was supposed to be like a really strong character, like on the level of Geralt. You know, he slayed monsters and dragons just like Geralt would. But they literally gave him diarrhea and then slit his throat and killed him. Like, they just killed him off. And in like a very humiliating way. Why? That breaks all four of those rules that I kind of just established. Actively changes something that didn't happen. It can't be undone. It really doesn't fit within the universe because, like, he's supposed to be, like, one of the strongest knights out there. Like, he wouldn't get killed so easily. And it was useless. It provided nothing. It was just annoying. It was one of those just awful, awful changes that was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. I could go on for a while about that series, but and then there, there's a ton of other series that butchered the source material to the point where I've had this video idea for a while, and it's like every time a series does it, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna make the video, but I'm just like always in the middle of something at the time. This has been something on my mind for a while, and it's ridiculous. Like, as a writer, like, if you're writing an adaptation, you're not above the source material, period. Like, that's it. You're not better than the source material. If you were better than the source material, you'd be writing an original story. That really is it. Like, it's not your story that's being adapted here. Your job as someone that's writing an adaptation is to simply translate it into a new format. So, like, if it was originally an hour long and now you have to split it into like 20-minute episodes, you're not supposed to completely change how events happened. You're simply supposed to pick and choose what gets shown on screen. But everything is still supposed to happen, right? Like, that's just how adaptations work, or should work. But it's all these writers who really shouldn't have, like, writing jobs. It's always awful writers that are giving these adaptation jobs. What's expected from them is to just not mess things up, and they manage to mess it up every time. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous to the point where I don't think adaptations and reboots should be done at all anymore. Like, I just don't think it should be a thing. Like, really, if I want to watch The Last Airbender, I'm gonna watch The Last Airbender, not this. Even if, like, the visuals look cool, like, here and there, but it's just, if the writing's bad, I don't care. And if the writing literally spits on the source material, then it's bad. Like, I don't care if it would be otherwise good if it was a standalone product. If it takes source material and ruins it, then it's bad. That's how I will always feel about it. And, with adaptations, there is going to be challenges. There is a reason why someone needs to come in and do extra writing to make an adaptation, and that's because, so, like, in the context of a TV show or a movie, you generally have too much material, especially for movies. Novels have too much material. So you have to cut a lot of stuff. But cutting stuff doesn't mean rewriting stuff. And sometimes the source material is literally just history, and people still get it wrong, which is insane to me. The movie Napoleon is a great example. Who was this movie for if not, like, nerds, like history nerds? That's who this movie was for. People who would know if you got something wrong. So that should literally be your focus. If you're doing something historical and it's not transparently like alternate history, like if you're not going into Abraham Lincoln Vampire Slayer type alternate history territory, then it needs to be historically accurate. And every single thing that isn't historically accurate is going to be torn to pieces by the audience. And the audience is going to hate it. And if you make the target audience hate your product, you're going to fail. You're going to fail horribly. It's so incredibly obvious that I feel like I shouldn't have to say it, but yet the Napoleon movie happened. Like, what are these people thinking? I genuinely don't understand where Hollywood in particular gets their writers. Like, it has to be just complete nepotism. Like, I don't think I'm qualified to write a Hollywood movie, but at the same time, I know I could do a better job than a lot of these people, which is insane. I know a ton of people, actually, that could do a better job than these people. I feel like if you're going to be writing for a movie with a massive budget, like, you need to have, I don't even know. I was going to say experience, but then a lot of these people have experience. They just have experience being awful. And for some reason, they still get work. And it's like someone needs to set them down and just tell them their work is awful. Which, I mean, there is a big part of me that feels like it probably is just nepotism. Because that actually is a really big problem when it comes to writers. I do quite a bit of writing myself. I've worked as a game journalist. Like, I've seen how much, like, nepotism really influences the whole career of writing. It's pretty rough. But I don't get it because it's pretty clearly like a bad financial decision. And the crazy thing about source material is it's already something that's written out that people generally liked. Like, that's why it's being rebooted or adapted. And so you basically don't have to do anything. Why would you change it if people already like it? It's like the don't fix what isn't broke type of deal. And there really are just like endless examples of this in recent years of reboots and adaptations just completely destroying the source material. And it's gross. Like, what is the point? it doesn't do well, like, financially. Like, every time you see something like this happen, it ends up flopping. But so it really is just like, what is the point of them doing this? Because every time they seem to do one of these reboots or adaptations and they change the source material, it ends up flopping. Like, I can't think of one example where they successfully change stuff and then people are like, okay, that's fine, especially in recent years. But so yeah, what are some examples that come to mind when you think of people butchering source material? Because I know there's an endless list, but just like, what do you think of when you hear that phrase, like butchering source material? You know, what are some things that come to mind? Let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to see that. But so yeah, thanks for watching. I just kind of wanted to rant about this. I feel like every few weeks I see something new that makes me want to make a video like this. But so yeah, hit the like button if you enjoyed this video, subscribe if you want to see more. See you next time.
Why does this keep happening?